Hi guys, it's me Sam here today, and today we are going to create this look using some new products that I have had sitting around. This is the Huda Beauty Empowered Palette. We are also going to be using the Hourglass Tiger Unlocked palette. And I also have a juicy tart plumping lip and some other random products. So if you are down and interested and ready to get chatty about some random things, then continue watching. Okay, so I have a bunch of makeup here that I've intended on reviewing, and I've kind of been taking my sweet time. And I figured let's sit down and play with the makeup, but at the same time, I wanted to keep it really casual and just kind of do this more like a get ready with me type of thing, because I just sometimes get a little too overwhelmed with the review thing. So I am just gonna put some makeup on and tell you guys what I think of the thoughts afterwards. If you are interested in buying this, then you're gonna go out and find out how much it costs and this, that, and the third. I don't need to tell you all of that information. I'm sure there's a million videos with these products already telling you that stuff. So let's not delay this any further and get started. All right, so we're going to start with primer, and I actually got something that I haven't tried before here. This is the Misha Glow primer called the Glow Skin Balm. I picked this up from Amazon. I am a huge fan of the Touch and Soul Glassy Skin Balm. I think that's what it's called. That's like one of my ride or die primers. And I'm almost out, not quite out yet, but I was looking to order a replacement just, so it's ready. But I saw this and I was like, you know what? I'll try this. And if it's good, this was a lot cheaper. So the Touch and Soul, I think, is like $26, which is not, you know what? It's worth it. But this was like $15.99. So I was like, if this is similar enough, then I'm definitely going to pick it up. So this is the little packaging. It's very cute. A lot more fancy looking than the Touch and Soul one. And it comes with a little fancy spatula here. This is what she looks like inside, like a moisturizer. She does look she looks a lot like my Touch and Soul. Let's use the fancy spatula since it has it. I probably grabbed way too much, but it's definitely a lot thicker than the Touch and Soul. Let's see. But it goes on like a gel cream. I feel like the Touch and Soul is like a moisturizer that gives you a really hydrated look, but it also kind of has something in it. I don't know what it is. That's magic that does make my pores a little less visible. This does have a light scent to it too, and I don't remember my Touch and Soul having a scent. I use it all the time and I don't notice a scent to it, so I'm gonna say it doesn't have one. And it's winter, so I like using something like this because it's just gonna be like that extra hydration. Try not to put too much even though I have so much on my hand. I'm just gonna rub this into my hands because it's pretty much like a moisturizer anyway. I mean, I can see my skin is nice and glowy. It feels nice. It feels like a primer. It feels like it's something laying on my skin. All right, so I have two foundations that I pulled out. These are oldies but goodies, but I'm in between shades. I really don't know what's gonna match me these days. This is the Flower Beauty Light Illusion in D1. It looks too dark when I put it on my finger, but see when you spread it out. Let's try this one. This is my Uma Beauty in Bronze Venus T1N. This brand, I had the hardest time finding my match when I first ordered. They're very similar. I'm going to go with the Uma Beauty. So I was just reading an article about housing, real estate or whatever, and people who bought houses during the pandemic and also like people who changed jobs and during the Great Resignation and all of that. And I thought it was really interesting. I am a person who switched jobs during the pandemic, and you know, I feel like it's interesting to me how many people in the country, in the world, were going through the same thing and like just living through life being like, okay, well, this is as good as it gets, and I'm just going to stay in this job forever. And then the pandemic hit, and they were like, well, what do I have to lose? Like at this point, um, time to like move on. And me personally, I work in healthcare. I still work for the same hospital that I have been working for. I've been working for this hospital literally since 2 weeks after my 18th birthday. And I just had my 37th birthday. So since 2003, it's been a long time. So, I mean, technically, I stayed within the company or hospital or whatever. And throughout my years there, this would be like my fifth position change, I guess, like a different role. Two of my job changes were within the same group or department. Um, it was just like moving up a step in that department. I'm gonna pull my hair back. And my foundation's sitting really nicely on top of that. Now, I don't know if you've been watching my channel for a long time, but prior to or in the beginning of the pandemic and prior to the pandemic, I worked as a surgical admin. So I worked for surgeons, scheduling their surgeries, patient surgeries, and taking care of their calendars and all kinds of administrative stuff. And during the pandemic, I did a lot more surgical scheduling and cancellations, as you would imagine, because of the pandemic. And like, there were so many restrictions and limitations, and there was always an element to the job where patients are not very nice, but you always had some patients that were very grateful for the help because even though we're not doctors or nurses or whatever, we're the gatekeeper to the operating room. We're the ones who do all the scheduling, and we know what's up if you need to get in. And in many cases, we do a lot of the like kind of triaging with the doctors. The doctors will go over schedules with us, like over patient lists with us, and then we go from there on like who gets booked where, when, and everything like that. And a lot of times the surgeons don't have any clue where they're going to be when they're going to be there. They really rely on the admins to know all that, do all that for them. They just look at the calendar and show up when they are supposed to. And they don't have that much control of their schedule. I know a lot of people like have this imaginative idea that the surgeons literally know everything and they control everything. It's like people also have like this weird idea that like when you call, your surgeon's always sitting there waiting for you to call you back, but then at the same time they're always in the operating room when you want them to be in the operating room, but they're also always in clinic when you need to be seen. So dealing with patients has always been very tricky because, they want to call back right away because they think, everybody's just sitting there waiting for their phone call. At the same time, they want the surgeon who's the most popular. And if they're the most popular, that means they're sitting in the office the least to answer phone calls and do administrative stuff like that. It was so intensely stressful, and we were short-staffed, like many places, because of the pandemic, but also because just people were like having like life events. We had a girl who was like moving out of state with her fiance who had been planning that for like years before it actually came to fruition, and it just so happened to overlap with the pandemic and everything. And then you just have patients who have so many questions. They're like paranoid, scared, terrified, some that are very laid back. It just was like a hodgepodge of all kinds of things going on. And it was so stressful. And if you're canceling hundreds, I mean hundreds of people's surgeries and then rescheduling them and they're not getting the dates they want, and everybody thinks that their issue is the most important issue of them all, I'm going to dip into this Hourglass palette. This is the Tiger one. I know these were customizable if you order it from the website, but I didn't customize them because I got all three. So this is what she looks like. Very, very cute. I want to try the bronzer in here and see if it's any good. So basically, it was a shit show of a job. Like, people were always angry with us, and you just couldn't make anybody happy, it felt like. And it was always a hard job because you know, patients are, you know, our patients. They're always, I feel like that bronzer is not a bronzer. What am I doing? That's supposed to be a blush, but I think, does it look as bad as I think it does? It doesn't. Looks fine. We're going to use that as a bronzer. So it was always a tough job because, you know, it's just hard when you're dealing with patients, when you're dealing with like customer service type things. And I know it's hard to think of like healthcare like that, but it's true. I did not set my under eyes, and there's no setting powder in this palette. So we're going to pull out a different one that actually I've been waiting to try as well. That looks good. It's a blush, but I think it looks fine as a bronzer. We're just going to roll with it. So with that being said, during the pandemic, it was really, really hard because every patient felt as though they were somehow like not being treated as well as other patients. You had people who did not believe in the pandemic, so you just get called a effing idiot all day long, and it was just so stressful, and I just kind of couldn't take, if I'm being like 100% honest, I literally left a job that I loved with surgeons that I loved. I worked for the chief of general surgery in the department that I was with. I was the lead surgical admin of the group, and I loved the people I worked with and the work that I was doing because I felt like it was important, because I felt abused by patients. I was coming home crying every single day because I just felt like they were just being so mean. I was literally breaking down emotionally. And then to top it off, my husband and my kids were all home during the pandemic. I kind of was jealous and wanted to be home. I was going into work every single day. But then also my husband was so stressed out being with the kids and working from home, trying to juggle everything, that when I would come home, it was like, this is everything that happened today and blah, 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 blah. And not that he was screaming, but like just like dumping his whole day on me and like wanting me to rescue him. And I'm trying to rescue him, but I feel like broken. I'm going to try this powder from Units. It might be a mistake because look, it says translucent, but I don't trust powders that much. But I'm not going anywhere, so we're going to just go. This I got for free, like with a Beautylish order, and it's been just sitting in my bin waiting. Just tapping it. So yeah, like I felt like when I came home, I had to like rescue him from the crazy day that he had with the kids and everything. But at the same time, I felt like I needed to be rescued because I was told all this crazy stuff all day from people who don't know me, don't care about me. And, you know, obviously they're going through stuff. So you kind of have to like just not say anything and be a big girl about it. But it freaking can wear you down. And I'm talking hundreds of people. And then once restrictions would loosen up, we'd have to reschedule all these patients. And like I said, we were short staffed. So we're booking for surgeons that are not even ours sometimes and redoing the on-call schedule. And because it was the pandemic, we had surgeons who normally didn't do trauma call. They were certified for trauma, but they weren't technically under the trauma team surgeons. But because trauma surgeons were getting pulled to do intubations and stuff, our surgeons were doing trauma calls. So it was just rearranging schedules all the time for the call schedule. It just was a lot. It was a lot of work. And even though I felt like it was important work, I just felt burnt out. I was very burnt out, like most of people in America during that time. I just felt burnt out. I was tired of dealing with people, and I felt like people were so ungrateful to the fact that, I was still busting my ass, and I know they felt trapped being home, but in my mind, I'm like, your ass is sitting on the couch. You can watch as much Netflix as you want. You could do whatever. Be happy that you're not here dealing with this craziness. And then even just going into work, I'm not a nurse. I'm not seeing patients, but you're expected to wear a full on mask. At one point, we're wearing masks and we're wearing goggles, and we're trying to be normal at the same time. It was just crazy. It was crazy. Just eating in the cafeteria was a whole thing. And there was restrictions on where you could eat, where you couldn't eat, if you had to take your mask off in your area, and if people walked in your area, and people were testing weekly to make sure you're healthy enough and you weren't COVID positive and spreading it through the office, because God forbid if we gave it to one of the surgeons and they couldn't come in, and all this crazy stuff. It was insane. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. I don't know what kind of eye look I'm going to do. So I'm going to wait to do the blush and the highlight. But I think that blush, what shade was it? It's called Burnish Glow. It's technically a blush. I used it as a bronzer. I think it looks fine as a bronzer. I think it looks fine. So that's what we got going on there. I did pull out another bronzer. My under eye, I don't love. I feel like it set the under eye really nicely, but I feel like it is a little too white. But maybe once I spray setting spray, it melts into the skin, it'll be a little bit better. So needless to say, I was coming home crying all the time to my husband. He was stressed out, and he was like, you know what? Your job shouldn't be making you cry. You should just switch jobs and pick do something different. Most of my work over the years has always been surgical scheduling and kind of working my way up to where I was in the lead group that I was in. And I really didn't know where the hell I was going to start. So obviously I applied to a bunch of jobs. I wanted to stay within the same system because health insurance and all of that. Let me just say too, I'm going to use the Empowered palette from Huda. I didn't even realize there were 2 cream shadows in here. This was made in Italy. I'm going to give you just a few basic things that surprised me. So I know it's made in Italy. Most of her palettes like this are made in Italy. But I just mentioned that I thought was really cool that this actually has Braille. The back of the packaging here has Braille. This is the first time I've seen Braille on makeup packaging. I just want to note that because I have not seen that, and I don't think anybody has mentioned that at all. And there's 2 cream shadows that I was completely unaware. I have been kind of avoiding tutorials and stuff with this palette because I was I do want to use it and I don't want to have ideas in my head already. So we'll just take it from here. But yeah, I just wanted to make note of that. I'm going to use the first one, Worthy, to see if it's any good, which is this one right here. I don't want to use this one up here because it's black. And I just feel like that's scary. And I do like that this palette goes completely flat. I don't know if you can see that, but like the other ones always kind of go like this. And I feel like this is kind of convenient because you can like really just hold it up. So I eventually got this job that I'm in now, and it's within the hospital and it's remote. So, and I don't have to deal with patients. And I know that sounds really, really mean, but I promise you it's for the better. Because I was kind of feeling like to the point where I've always had a lot of compassion for patients and stuff like that. But like I was kind of starting to feel like I didn't care. You guys don't care about me. Why should I freaking like kill myself every single day? And like, if you are an empathetic person, which I think that I am, when you hear everybody's story every single day, every patient has like a sad story of somebody that they lost or why they wanted their surgery because like all these things were happening every single day, and you just literally absorb all of that, it freaking tears you apart. It tears you apart, like legit. I felt like I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I needed to get away from patient care. I just really did. I think I paid my dues, almost 20 years of doing direct contact with patients. I deserved a break from it. So now the job that I do, it's not really, I don't want to call it IT because I'm not like IT, but basically I build the schedules in the background for the surgeons. It's their mostly like their clinical stuff, but every once in a while we get other requests like for OR stuff or radiology scheduling. Basically we make it so that the schedulers who just make generic appointments and stuff like that, when they hit auto search or if a patient's using their like my chart, that they're getting the exact appointment they're supposed to get. That the computer is able to find the appointment that they're looking for. Automated. And if you don't build it correctly in the background, that isn't going to happen. That is a very thin layer. It's almost like, not almost, it's definitely more of a balm than a cream shadow. I would not call that a cream shadow. It's more of like a balm base. That's what I'm going to call it. I do like it. It went on pretty easily, but like it is definitely a nice thin balmy base. And I feel like it's really just that kind of like tacky enough texture to like really adhere eyeshadows. But then that means like you kind of have to be careful because maybe when we put that next shade, it's going to like adhere too much. It's going to be patchy and be hard to blend out. We will see. I am going to take a rougher 14. I barely use these brushes because I like them, but they're not my favorite. We're going to go into, I feel like doing something really different. Let's do Winter. Let's do Winter, which is a gray. It has like a touch of purple in it, but it's primarily gray. And then I think we're going to go in this shade here, which is Confident after. But we're going to start in with Winter. Because I feel like I don't know. I've been using the ABH palette and then the Dash Nona one, and they all have these like rust colors. And I feel like I need something different. So let's take that in the crease. And I think this will like kind of set that other shade a little so that it doesn't look too crazy. So yeah, I was feeling terribly burnt out. And so I took this job and I did some of this background work in my role previously. Like you wouldn't believe when you're a secretary quote unquote secretary, you might make edit changes to the background of a schedule for a day to squeeze people in, to cancel a day if the doctor calls in sick. You schedule any kind of test or procedures that the surgeons or the doctor may order. You're doing their expenses for any like conferences that they do. Sometimes you do traveling. You're doing the on-call schedule. You're ordering supplies. You do so many things. And you kind of train surgeons. Let me just tell you, because a lot of times you'll get, not all the time, but like I've had surgeons that are brand new to the system. You kind of have to show them or tell them like how to run their practice. Where I worked is a it's a school and a hospital. So when you have a system that's also a school as well, you have residents and even if you don't, but like a lot of times the surgeons are also professors in the school. So you might do a little bit more of having residents, interns, and fellows within the group that are learning things, and you gotta train them. You gotta tell them how the surgeons roll because they kind of have to pick up all the loose ends. And yeah, like preparing them, getting all the documentation. You're doing all their credentialing, all their insurance credentialing, you know, you're making sure their licenses are renewed, all this stuff. So it's a lot. So I kind of had some experience with this. I'm going in now with confident over top, but it wasn't like a full-time job and I didn't know all the tricks. I knew how to just go in and fix a schedule for a day and just let that be that. But I was willing to learn. And when I made the switch initially, just turn over. I went through a depression. I went through a huge depression because as everybody was going back to work in person, I was starting to work from home and I felt very lonely. The kids were actually, I started the job in September last year and the kids started school in September last year. Like literally a couple weeks after school started, I started working from home. So I just felt very lonely. I went from working in an office with lots of people, talking to people all day long on the phone, to not talking to anybody on the phone, to not talking to anybody, period. I'm home alone. And, it just was like a huge, huge adjustment for me. So far, I really like that. I want to take Bold Moves, which is like, it's a pewter, but if you see here, it has lots of gold flakes in it. So I'm curious how that's going to look. And I'm just going to put that all over the lip. Oh my God. Can you see that? Oh my God. That is freaking beautiful. Holy smokes. Okay, guys, I'm in love. I am in love. Just taking a finger that has nothing and just tapping the edges. Just bringing it up a little higher and dispersing the sparkle. Oh my goodness. I really, really like that. I went a little too ham up there. I am getting a little fallout from this shade, but Jesus, it's gorgeous. So yeah, I went through a major depression. Then my husband was like, oh my goodness, he felt bad telling me to work from home and to change jobs because he's like, you were crying all the time when you were in the office. Now you're crying all the time because you're not in the office and you miss your people. And like, was it really the job that was making me crazy, or was it just me going through the pandemic with everybody else, I don't know. But I do know that now I've gotten used to working home all the time, and we have like a routine going with the kids and everything like that. I'm going to take a little bit of confidence and just make sure I didn't lose it here. Um and I'm not sure that now I'm really comfortable like in what I'm doing, so I do feel like a lot better in that aspect. I'm not sure or convinced quite yet like this is my career path. Like I do feel like maybe there's something else for me, but I do feel like I just learned something new and I can continue to add on to that, which is really exciting. So maybe like working more in an IT setting, because, what we do is pretty similar, but like now do I go back to school to become an analyst? I don't really know. I'm almost 40, and like by the time I pay off those school loans, my oldest will be going to college. It's going to be weird. I'm just going to take some more of this and put it on the lower lash line. Do I want to do that? I don't know. Right now, I'm just kind of like cruising along and seeing where I feel comfortable. And then I guess like as time goes on, we'll just play it by ear. I like doing YouTube, and you would think that because I'm home more, that I have more time for YouTube, but it's actually kind of harder because I actually now have to like get ready to do YouTube. Like before, I would dress kind of nicer because I was dressing every day for work. And then I'd come home and just wear the same clothes to film and whatever, whatever. But now it's like I'm dressing bummier because I'm working from home. And I'm going through this thing where I'm like, I don't know if I like my style, if I have a style outside of like office work wear and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like, most days I don't feel very confident in my appearance, but I don't really want to go back to like wearing slacks just to be in my house. I was doing that in the beginning, and then eventually that died out because I realized I wasn't dressing for anybody and it wasn't like necessarily necessary. I feel like once you take that shade in the inner corner, you don't really have another inner corner shade. You know what? I'm going to take this shade called Bad Dreams, which is like a even lighter. I feel like these two are very similar. You know what? I'm going to take Rebel, which is this one. It's even lighter. It's still cool tone enough, and put that in the inner corner. It's a matte shade, but I feel like that's going to be... No, it's not light enough. It's a pretty shade. I'm going to put on both sides just for the sake of having things be symmetrical, but definitely not light enough. So I'm just going to take actually a highlighter from the Tiger palette, and we'll just work with that. So I feel like this one could be a highlighter. It's really kind of a blush. And then we have this one here, which is definitely a highlight. This one's definitely a highlight. Oh, that first one is like a powder. I probably could have set my under eye with it, but this is the highlighter. I'm going to take the highlighter and put that on my inner corner. But yeah, I feel now like more confident in my job. I know all the little tricks to what I do, which feels very nice. I think that was like another thing. I felt like I wasn't sure if I was good at what I was doing. Not that I was like making lots of mistakes, but just like, here's an interesting thing. It was the first time in my life that I got put in a group for work, that I had to compete in my workspace. And I'll explain. So previously at my other job, like I was the lead person. So a lot of people relied on me for things, but also I felt like it was my job sometimes to pick up slack where other people weren't really doing stuff. And I was kind of used to always kind of being like, I have the bulk of the work. There were certain things that I had to do that other people didn't have to do just because I was in the position that I was in. But in the role that I'm in now, it's like, it's very similar to IT, where like somebody calls in, something's not working on their computer or something like that. They put in a ticket and they say somebody's going to call you back or somebody's going to fix your problem. And then they close your ticket when it's resolved. So basically, like people will put in a ticket and say, I need this day closed. I need to open this day. We need to change the whole schedule altogether, blah, 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 blah. And then we get this ticket, assign it to ourselves, do the work, and then close the ticket. And in the beginning, when I first came over to the group, it's a newer department as well. So it was a smaller group and everything was first come, first serve. So whoever grabbed the ticket first would do the ticket and be done. But it was the first time in my job where I'm like chasing the ticket, like, oh no, I want it. Oh, somebody else took it. And then you're like, oh, well, now I don't have anything to do for a few minutes. And then like the next one comes in, you're like racing to do work. You're competing with other people to get work. And that was very like bizarre to me. Like, oh my goodness, like I have to compete with people. And like, what if I'm not doing enough tickets in a day? Like, is it going to make me look bad? Like just all those kinds of thoughts. And it felt very unnatural. To kind of have that workflow. But now it's like a lot busier. We have assigned groups, like assigned departments. For blush, I think it's only natural to use this one right here. Kind of bronzy, but I like it. Which one is that? That is number 5. It's the Copper Flash Strobe Light. I feel like that's the one that's going to look the best on me and with this look. Yeah, so that was friggin' weird to me, was that I'm like over here legit like competing for work. And I was not used to that. And I just was feeling like very insecure. Like, am I not working fast enough? What if people are doing more than me? And you don't really know if they're making mistakes or anything, but you just assume that everybody is competent and everybody's great. And you're the new person and you're just like, I'm horrible, I'm very slow, and blah, 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 blah. And now I feel a lot more confident in what I'm doing because I've been doing it for a year now. There's still always things that I'm learning, which is really nice because I do feel like that's really important to me. Like if I'm not learning something new every day and I'm not keeping busy, then I'm going to lose interest very quickly. So I really do enjoy that about this job. It's just very different. And I still don't know, like I haven't decided to myself. I was hanging out with one of the surgeons that I worked with before, and he was saying to me, like, do you see yourself like continually doing this job? Do you see yourself doing something else? And I really couldn't answer the question because I feel like right now I'm comfortable and we're just going to keep playing it out. But I don't know that I see this as something I want to do for another 10 years. I'm going to quickly do my brows. And partly because I'm sure that question came up because since I've left that job, they hired another person who struggled. I'm not going to say anything else. She kind of struggled in the role and she ended up already leaving in less than a year, and she actually left healthcare altogether. So, I mean, it might have been the being a lead. It also might have been the patients, because also like when you're the lead, it's like when the other girls have a difficult patient that they can't handle, they go to you and then you have to deal with that patient too. So you really do get like the worst of the groups, like the most difficult people to try to satisfy. and make happy. And it's all about patient satisfaction. So you do kind of have to, even when somebody's pissing you off, calling you names or whatever, you kind of have to try your best to make them happy. Sometimes the other thing too is like insurance is a huge issue in America. And we had some insurances contracted, some not. And patients do not understand health insurance. People that have good insurance don't even understand their good insurance. And people that have bad insurance really don't understand their insurance. So when you have to explain it to somebody who's been paying money for something for so long and they thought something was covered and it was not, that's a very stressful thing for people. So the job is not easy. And I don't know if that girl was just tired of dealing with patients or she just didn't like the group or if she just realized like it was just too much, which all of that, I think it could also be all of the above together at the same time. It's hard for me to draw my brows and talk, but needless to say, she left and I think she went into real estate, which we all know is booming in a lot of places. So she left and they just hired another person to replace her. So I don't know if some of that was kind of like, do you think you'll come back kind of a question or what? I know like at first they kind of were like hoping that I would change my mind and eventually come back. Because we had this like family tie in the office, but like honestly, since I've been home, the other benefit to it is like being with my kids. I am home with my kids so much more because I don't have to rush to work immediately, like rush them to school to rush to work. And when I come home, I'm not going all over the city to pick up this one from this place and that one from daycare. And then we're going to drive across the city to make it home. And that takes another 30 minutes. And then once we get home, it's supper time, checking the homework, showers, and bed. Now they come off the bus. They come right in the house. I do a couple hours of work. They do their homework. I can kind of check their homework and then get back to my stuff. When I'm done for the day, I'm already home. I can start dinner early. Like it has that extra benefit of like being with my kids. And I don't know if there's anything that's going to beat that. I'm going to use this just because it's on my desk. This is the Wet n Wild, was it Photo Focus, the matte one? I love this. I feel like it's very, very underrated. I think everything looks really, really nice. I'm really happy with how it looks. Let's go into a lippy. Oh no, let me put some mascara on. So I don't know if any of you guys have tried this mascara from Tarte. And if you have, let me know in the comments below. It's the Lights Camera Lashes Mascara. This was like a birthday present from last year that I never opened. So I just opened it and I've used it twice and I think I like it, but I'm not 100% sure yet. But we're going to put this on. I will say that like it doesn't, I haven't had it smudge on my lower lash line, which happens a lot for me. I have no lashes on my top lash and I have decent bottom lashes and they're actually like long enough, I think, to touch the skin under my eye. So that's why I tend to have that problem if a mascara wants to do that. And because I have oily skin, even if I set my under eyes, eventually that concealer area is going to get it's going to be a little moist and ready to grab whatever is touching it. So I like that this doesn't seem to transfer like that. And I feel like it gives a good volume. I just don't feel like it gives me length, which I want to have everything. I want length and volume. Okay, so now we're done with the mascara. I want to try the Tarte Plumping, whatever, Juicy Lips. I have, let's ring the shame bell because literally I've had these in my bin for months. Since the summer, and they were all blowing up on TikTok. And then I was like, there was the part of me that didn't want to be left out, right? I had the FOMO and I was like, oh, I need to buy one because everybody has it. But then I was like, I don't, to defy all people in the world, I don't want to use it in a video and be like everybody else. So I'm going to boycott using it after I fucking spend my money because I don't want to be like everybody else. But here we are. So I got 2 shades. I got peachy beige and then I got honeysuckle. I think I'm going to use honeysuckle, but I just want to swatch peachy beige and see how it looks. Yeah, it looks like a nude, which I expected it to look like a nude. And then honeysuckle kind of reminded me of like that black, what is it, the black cherry Clinique thing that everybody goes crazy for. There it is. Yeah, it gives me that vibe. So we're going to use that one just because I think it'll look better with this look and my complexion. So yeah, and see how juicy my lips can look. And I know like the thing is to wear lip liner, but look, I have lip liner built in already. So I don't really need that. I feel like it really blurs the lines, and that's probably why everybody likes it. I can feel I can feel something on my lips, like it's trying to be a plumping thing, but I don't feel anything actually plumping. I think what the magic in this is not actually that it's doing any kind of plumping. I think that it fills in the lines. The texture fills in the lines on your lips in such a way that it gives the illusion that your lips are a little bit more smooth and less texture than they actually are. And that's probably the magic in this. There is a little plumping going on, but like I've had like an Essence lip glosses do more plumping than this. Like this is nothing. So let's take out this clip so I don't look crazy. I don't really wear my hair down very often just because honestly, like, I don't know how to make it last. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like putting in the effort. I'm very lazy, so I pull it back a lot. But it looks cute and my makeup looks nice. And it was nice chatting. I know maybe the subject wasn't quite what you were expecting from me, but I thought it was kind of interesting since I was reading some articles about it and I wanted to talk about it. I was like, I am kind of one of these people that bounced around during the Great Resignation. Granted, like I didn't just focus on YouTube, which I think a lot of people did, was like social media stuff, not YouTube in particular, but like TikTok and stuff like that. But I think one of the things I do want to mention, just because I'm thinking about this whole topic, but like I feel like one of the biggest things that's being left out in the whole narrative of like people quitting their jobs and not returning to work is not so much that they're not returning to work. They're just not going to work for other people anymore. I think what has happened is a lot of people have become self-reliant and have started their own businesses, whether it be like social media creation or like some kind of hobby that they turn into a business. And I think that to say that people are just sitting at home is probably really false because most people I can imagine can't survive this long without doing anything. So I definitely wanted to like say that because it was just coming up in my head. But anyways, so getting back to the makeup, this palette from Hourglass, I very much enjoyed it. I kind of knew I was going to enjoy it, and that's why I kind of felt like it was like a boring thing to talk about in this video. Like I didn't want to dedicate a whole video to this because I knew I was going to enjoy it. I will say that the one from last year, although it's okay, it's probably my least favorite one. So if you did not get the unlocked palettes for holiday from 2021, do not be sad about it, because I felt like as I used that palette more, I liked it less and less because there's too much glitter like stuff going on. Yeah. For the eyeshadow palette, I really like it. I felt like, I mean, granted, I didn't use all the shades or whatever, but it's pretty consistent with what she's given us in these bigger palettes. And that new texture of that like balmy shadow, whatever she had going on in there, was really, really nice. It was different and it felt very innovative. And yeah, I really, really like it. I mean, I can't wait to play with this more. Usually, once I review stuff, I like make it okay for myself to use it on everyday basis. I try not to use things for the first time off camera. I don't know if that's like something I should change, but I don't know what it is. I just usually hold on to things until I film it. And then after that, it goes into my regular collection and I can put it in my normal rotation. So I can't wait to play with it some more. I just felt like I really like these shades, and I think these tones are a little bit nicer than what's in the ABH palette, or maybe even in the Natasha Denona one. I was kind of like not as excited because this came after those two and they have these rustic shades. I was kind of bored of these shades. So I'm kind of happy that this has like a whole side of like cool tones with these metallic golds that you're not getting in the other palettes. So I think this will make it a little bit more interesting. And yeah, I like this a lot. The Juicy Lip, the Plumping Juicy Lip from Tarte, the honeysuckle shade. I like it. It's beautiful. I can feel the mintiness on my lips, but I would not call this plumping. I'd feel like this just has like a menthol vibe to it, but it's not plumpy whatsoever. But it does make my lips look juicy. I think it's just because it has like a really nice texture that fills in the lines of your lips to give the illusion that they're more plump, if that makes any sense. This unit powder, I actually like it. I think it looks really, really good. It does not like have some weird kind of like white cast under my eyes, which I have had with other powders. It like really set in nice. And I do feel like this Misha Balm is pretty promising, because when I look up close in like this area, I mean, obviously my skin has texture and I have pores, but it is doing what my Touch in Sol usually does, where it kind of blurs them just enough. But it still has like, my skin still has this juicy, hydrated, like youthful glow to it underneath, which is nice. And like, yeah, it just does enough blurring and pore filling to make you feel a little less self-conscious, but at the same time, it doesn't make your skin look unrealistic, if that makes any sense. So I really like this, and this saved me $10. So I'm not going to be mad at that whatsoever. And yeah, if you've used this Tarte mascara, let me know what you think. I think it's okay so far. I'm going to use it just to use it up, because I'm really trying to not buy any new mascaras, because I have literally like a whole basket of mascaras unopened from like birthday things, or when there was like Ulta 21-day sale, and I would buy like 3 of the It Cosmetics Superhero, because that's like my favorite and that's always on the sale list. And yeah, so I have like so many mascaras that I really need to get through. So if you use this, let me know. I think the regular packaging is not like this. I think this was just like that special birthday edition packaging or whatever. But yeah, so far I really like everything. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I know this was a really long one and probably an unexpected one. So yeah, if you made it this far along, I just want to say thank you. And until next time, love you. Bye.